Hi everybody and welcome to Season 76 of Bearcat Update. For today, I'll be updating you on how seasons are looking for our spring sports. From the busy softball and baseball schedules to some big wins for Martinez teams and everything in between. We got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. The Northwest baseball team had a busy week. Coming off of their series sweep against Arkansas Fort Smith, they faced William Jewell on Tuesday. The Bearcats took the lead in the third 1-0 after Dylan Huff's RBI single. The Cardinals regained the lead 2-1 in the top of the sixth, but the Bearcats didn't take long to retie the game. Unfortunately, Northwest couldn't hold on, ultimately ending their win streak at 4, falling 5-3. It was a quick turnaround for Northwest after they faced Missouri Western on Wednesday. Unfortunately, the Bearcats couldn't get their bats rolling with only 3 hits in 9 innings. Northwest ended up losing 4-0 against the Griffins. The Bearcats started their 3-game series with a doubleheader on Friday against Rogers State. Northwest offense struggled with only 4 hits and lost 11-0. In Game 2, the Bearcats had some momentum after an electric 7th inning, but it wasn't enough to take the win, losing 7-4. After losing 4 in a row, the Bearcats would bounce back as they would take down the Hillcats 8-5 after Ryan Williams would put a period on the afternoon with a walk-off home run. But for more on the week's action of baseball, we're going to send it to Lauren Slocum as she breaks it down and catches up with Dylan Hufft post-game.
This season has been a special one for the Northwest baseball team. After hiring new head coach Tony Jandren, the program has taken a turn for the better. Preseason rankings had ranked Northwest second to last in conference play, but the Bearcats have spent the first part of their season proving they are real contenders in the league. Right now, they are on track to having their first winning season since 2018. Heading into Tuesday's game against William Jewell, the Bearcats were on a 4-game winning streak. The first 2 innings started slow for both teams after both pitchers went 3 up, 3 down. Redshirt freshman Brody Hufft started the bottom of the third with a single, and it was Dylan Hufft who hit him in with an RBI single, taking a 1-0 lead. Both teams were held until the 6th when the Cardinals hit a 2-run homer, taking the lead 2-1. The Cats quickly responded, tying the game 2-2 after Dylan Hufft got on base and scored from a passed ball. William Jewell retook the lead 4-2 in the 8th and added an insurance run in the 9th. Northwest kept fighting and cut the deficit to 5-3, but unfortunately couldn't come back. Northwest stranded a total of 11 runners, leaving the bases loaded twice. We interviewed Dylan Hufft, who led the team with 2 hits, 2 runs, and an RBI, and here's what he had to say post-game.
Yeah, we go into every game thinking we're going to win and knowing we're going to win, and today wasn't the outcome that we wanted, but it'll be good for us to play again tomorrow and get back on the field and try and get that win. So.
Bearcat Update wishes the Bearcats good luck as they finish the week with a triple-header against Rogers State.
Thanks, Lauren. The softball team also had a busy week with 3 doubleheaders. On Sunday, they faced Fort Hays State. In Game 1, Northwest took an early 2-0 lead, but unfortunately the Tigers responded quickly with 4 of their own. After the first inning, Fort Hays held the lead the rest of the game, winning 11-3. In Game 2, the Tigers took another early 2-0 lead. The Bearcats responded with 3 of their own, but it wasn't enough to win after Fort Hays added another 2. Northwest ended up losing 4-3. On Friday, the Bearcats split their series against Central Oklahoma. In Game 1, the Broncos took a 1-0 lead and continued to add. They added another 5 runs in the 5th and 6 runs in the 6th. The Bearcats lost 12-0 in a run rule. In Game 2, Northwest bats were hot, putting up 4 runs in the 1st. The Broncos tried to come back in the 3rd, but the Bearcats held them the rest of the game, winning 4-2. On Saturday, Northwest faced the Newman Jets in another doubleheader. The Bearcats quickly tacked on 2 runs in the first and never looked back. Northwest run-ruled the Jets in the 5th with a score of 18-0. In Game 2, the Bearcats kept their bats hot and took down the Jets in just 5 innings, winning 9-0. Northwest will travel to Pittsburgh to face Pitt State on Friday. But for more on the Bearcat softball team, our crew member Anthony Martinez got the chance to sit down with head coach Naomi Tellez.
Coach Naomi Tellez has been playing softball all her life. After being named the 10th head coach in Bearcat softball program history and currently on her 4th year on the job, she aims to bring more history as we talked about the long-term goals for this program. We also got to hear about what brought her to Northwest, along with gaining insight of the team culture and what she looks for when searching for new recruits and leaders on the team.
I think just the opportunity to be a head coach, that's something that I've always wanted to do. I was at a point in my career where I thought, I knew I could be a good assistant, but whether I want to stay on this path or not is, could I lead a program? And, Andy Peterson gave me the opportunity to do that, which I'm very grateful for. And, at Northwest, you feel a lot of support from the community and around campus, and that's something that really drew me here. I think, the one thing that comes to my brain when I think about our team and our team culture is just bringing good people in. I always say, if you're a good athlete, I really hope you're a good person too, because that's first and foremost. We know that bad apples don't really get along well here. It doesn't make the experience fun. But we like to build good humans. Humans first, athletes second. And just for being positive, we get to play this sport. It's a game. At the end of the day, it is something that brings us together, but it's fun at the end of the day. And my job is to get you to compete at the highest level you possibly can. And however we get there, we're going to do it with our head held high, and we're just going to grind it out. I think the first thing, people that say that talent doesn't draw them, that's the first thing that grabs our attention. We go out recruiting and talent's going to be number one. And for us, I need you to be really athletic. I need you to be versatile. Right now, our program's kind of built off of speed. So are you fast? Can you, hit for average, and we'll figure the rest out later. But after that, it's almost like an interview process when you go through it. And, are they going to fit in? Are there any red flags? Is there something that you're like, maybe not? And the whole recruiting thing is just getting to know the person and who they are. Being able to hold yourself accountable, I think, is huge. There's a lot of times that things get done and people aren't looking. So can you hold yourself to a really high standard? And then, being the tough guy, being able to hold your teammates accountable, and you love them and they're your friends. But at the end of the day, that they can perform at a higher level. And do you have the guts to say, hey, I need more out of you? And it's not easy. And I will say this is probably the hardest year for our team to do that, just because they are so close. But understand you do it because you care about them. I think for us, it's Lily Philgar is always one that kind of leads our group. She's been our leadoff hitter for 3 years now. She's a senior and she's a little firecracker. And when she goes, we go. So she really is kind of the spark plug of our offense. I think the biggest thing for us is to be able to compete for a regional. Our conference is really hard, and not to say that we don't want to win conference, because we do, but that's a really hard task to do. But historically, top 4 teams in our conference get to make a regional. So that, to me, is something that we strive for, that we think about, where hopefully in the next couple of years we get to go do that.
The softball team will continue to grind to their goal of reaching regionals. This is Anthony Martinez with Bearcat Update. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Anthony. The tennis teams got back to work as the men took home a dominant 5-2 win over 36th-ranked Nebraska Kearney, with 25th-ranked sophomore Dominic Weinjus notched his 6th straight singles victory. The men's team is now 8-6 with an impressive 4-1 record in MIAA play. For the women, it was the 12th-ranked Lopers that got the triumph in a 4-3 thriller as the Bearcats fell to 6-7 on the year. They sit at 2-1 in MIAA play. Tennis will pack their bags as they head to Oklahoma to face Northeastern State on Friday. The golf team took a field trip to Arkansas as they participated in the Hardscrabble Invitational. After 54 holes of work, the Bearcats would finish 14th. After the tournament, Northwest would dip in national and central rankings. Senior Paige Hoffman finds herself ranked 21st in the Central region as the Bearcats prepare for another road trip as it will participate in the Spring Regional Preview in Monkey Island, Oklahoma on April 7th. Despite just wrapping up the indoor track season, the grind doesn't stop as the outdoor season has officially begun. Heading all the way to Emporia, Kansas to compete in the ESU relays. It was Lydia McLaughlin that would star for the Bearcats as she shattered the meet record for the 800-meter run, finishing in a time of 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Chloe Sainez would also leave a mark as she landed one of the top 40 marks in the 200-meter dash. The Bearcats would prepare for the next weekend's Midwest Classic. As we're heading towards the end of the spring season, it's time for volleyball team to get back in action. Over the weekend, they headed to La Vista, Nebraska for the River City Collegiate Challenge. Matching up against Peru State, Bellevue, and South Dakota State, the Bearcats aim to get early season momentum and see how the team is shaping up after 6 seniors graduated in the offseason. The team now aims to extend their winning season streak to a decade under the leadership of Coach Amy Worth. Hey, it's halftime. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe and click the bell to be the first to know when we post new content. As we take our first break of the show, stick with us as we throw things over to KZLX. We'll be right back.
Running since 1971, broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Featuring programs and news from National Public Radio, as well as Americana, jazz, and classical music. KXCV 90.5 FM Maryville, KNRW 88.9 FM Chillicothe.
Tyrell, did you hear the news?
No, what's up, Noah?
Well, there's a new season of Nerd Central. No, man, there's so much new stuff.
Like what?
Well, Hero to Zero, Star Wars lore.
Oh the Magical Mystery Music Tour and Reel and Beats? This is incredible.
Want to go check it out on YouTube?
You know I do.
That Reels and Beats pack sounds very interesting.
I just love the host of that one. I want to.
Seems interesting.
We're going to turn the dial a bit here from X106.7. I'm Wiley Ray. Let's get right into it. Cue that intro. We're going to step into the batter's box this week and cover Northwest baseball. The baseball team sitting 13-14 on the season with a record of 7-7 in the MIAA. The Bearcats last week had a 4-game win streak, but this week it was broken with a 5-3 loss in the middle of the week to William Jewell and a 4-0 loss from the rival down south, Missouri Western. Bearcats had only 3 hits in that one, and so far this season, the baseball team has been a powerhouse offensively. Looking at some batting stats, Dylan Hufft leads the way with a .351 batting average, 9 extra base hits, and 28 RBIs. Next up is Chester Brooks, batting .313 on the season so far, 1 home run, 12 RBIs. Ashton Newman batting .307, 34 runs, 6 home runs, and 25 RBIs. In our Bearcat update with the X Player of the Week is Ryan Williams. Ryan batting .301 on the season, 25 runs, 3 total home runs so far, and 30 RBIs with a .523 on-base percentage. Our director, Dante Distefano, dives further into Ryan Williams' time as a Bearcat. Take it away, Dante.
This is Ryan Williams. He has been with the Bearcats since 2022, coming out of Liberty, Missouri. And when you share the field with Ryan, you are in for a long night. Throughout his career at Northwest, he has been considered a utility player, meaning he plays any position that the team needs him to play. But mostly, he catches behind the plate. In his freshman season, he appeared in 41 games and held a batting average of .234 and a slugging percentage of .320. His sophomore season was much of the same, hitting just .200 with 25 hits in 37 games. His junior season, however, was where it all came together. Ryan became the first Bearcat baseball player to achieve academic All-American status and Division II All-American in a season. That saw his batting average rise from .200 to .391, as well as career highs in hits, steals, RBIs, and home runs. But the accolades don't stop there. He set the single-season walk record with 48, surpassing the old record of 45, held by Brandon Husk and Nick Gatta. He finished off a stellar season achieving first-team All-Central Regions honors. So far in his senior season, he's been leading the Bearcats by example. He's maintained a 300-plus batting average, adding 31 hits, 30 RBIs, and 3 home runs on the season. For Bearcat Update, thank you all for watching. I'm Dante Distefano, back to you in the studio.
Welcome back to BC with the X. I'm Wiley, and we're going to be covering Rays, plays, and highlights, as this week I'm stepping into the batter's box and breaking down some offensive and defensive plays for Northwest baseball. Let's take a look at our first clip. So we take our first one here. This one's going to be an offensive play, a nice RBI for the Bearcats, as this one squeaks down that third base line, ultimately bringing in an RBI double for Northwest in their win against UCM. But we're going to take a farther look here into this play, and it all starts with that hit. So we'll let this roll out here. I want you to stop right here. So right here you can see a little bit of an angle up top. And as you see, it ultimately is a grounder, but he swings early, must have been down in the count because he has his hands in trying to fight that inside pitch. A good job for the Bearcats right here offensively, but ultimately keeping the eyes on the ball, ultimately leading it down that third base line. Must have snuck past the third baseman, bringing in that RBI and possibly the potential leading or, you know, just kind of adding to the lead the Bearcats had here against the Mules. Let's let this play roll out, and a nice grounder. A good job there of being down in the count, finding the ball down into the field, and ultimately bringing in that RBI. Let's go to our next play here. This one's a nice defensive play for the Bearcat baseball team. So here's our next one here, and it's a great play by the Northwest defense. A nice running play. A lot of people look for this play, whether they're at the high school level, the Little League level, or wherever you play in baseball. This is what play you want to see from your infielders. So right here, we're going to let this one still rolling, but as you can see, he does a good job of, instead of leading the ball with his body, he throws it early, because you see that angle that ball is taking to the first baseman. He knows, hey, if I throw it late or if I don't throw it in front of him, it's ultimately going to be a wild throw. And a good job by the first baseman to stretch it out and get that out, because at the end of the day, the first baseman's job is to stretch out to get the extra out. Let's take a look at our third and final play, and it is baseball's favorite snack. And what I mean by that is this one is a great pickle play for the Bearcats. And on this one, great play, does a good job. The fielder has positioning, so a lot of people would call it interference, but in this instance, the fielder has a right to be in that spot. The only downside to this one is as the Bearcat player running down, you don't want to move that hand too much. Coming as a baseball player myself, you look at this, and a lot of times coaches go, hey, you don't want to sit there and do that because it might slip out of your hand. It might ultimately lead to someone staying on base. And in this case scenario, it leads people into the rest of the inning. And it's a domino effect from there for baseball. But this has been another edition of BC with the X. We'll be back in a week. Next up, we're going to send it to Jaden Varner and Reece as they run down next week's Bearcat schedule. Take it away, guys.
Welcome back to Next Week in Bearcat Sports. I'm your host, Jaden Varner.
And I'm Reece Hill.
And we're back to give you the rundown for Bearcat Sports. And due to Reece's horrid predictions, we got kicked out of our normal set.
Done. My predictions are not that bad.
Dude, you're like 1-6. If this was baseball, you'd be batting 167.
Speaking of baseball, it's been a roller coaster for the Bearcats these last few weeks. From a dominant series sweep of Arkansas Fort Smith to losing 2 of 3 against Rogers State, they do have another opportunity to flip the script when they head to Oklahoma to take on Northeastern State later this week. The Riverhawks sit at 4-10 at home and 10-20 overall. They've certainly had their share of struggles coming into this segment, coming in on a 9-game losing streak. This is a prime opportunity for the Bearcats to get back to 500. Dylan Hufft has picked up his play as the month of March comes to a close. Look for him to keep that up. As for my predictions, I'll take the Bearcats.
Sorry about that. Looking at softball, they are coming off a couple of impressive wins against Newman. Lily Filger, Omar Love, and Alexis Brown played major roles in the victories. Filger remains in the team's top spot in batting average with .416. Omar Love added to her RBI total with 8 RBIs against Newman. The Bearcats will be back in action on Friday, traveling to Pittsburgh State, and then on Saturday, traveling to Joplin to take on Missouri Southern. Look for the combination of Filger, Love, and Brown to provide some firepower as they head into these next few games.
Switching from the diamond to the courts, men's tennis will be in action on Thursday against Washita Baptist. Those matches will start at 2 on the Frank Grube courts. The women will be inactive until Friday when they travel to take on Northeastern State. Both teams will host McKendree in 1 week. Be there or be square.
Track and field will be back in Emporia, Kansas for the Midwest Classic after competing in the ESU relays this last week. Good luck to all Bearcats competing.
Since none of my predictions for this week were allowed to air, let us know in the comments how you think our Bearcat sports teams will do.
As always, make sure you're going out and supporting your Bearcats. That's all we have for you this week. We'll see you next week. Back to you, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Before we head out, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. But before we get into that, we'll take our second and final break of the show. We'll be right back.
Northwest Tower Yearbook has dedicated over a century to documenting life on campus and in the Maryville community. The award-winning organization has numerous Pacemaker Awards and a spot in the Associated Collegiate Press Hall of Fame. Learn more about Tower at the handles below.
Hey Tyrell, why don't you tell everyone what we do here?
Well, yeah, of course, because here are alternatives and options. We find uncommon solutions to common problems. For instance, did you know that tinfoil could be used as an alternative to batteries?
Our goal is to find the most effective, efficient, and affordable options for you.
Whether we're in the lab.
So how much do you really know about laundry detergent? Or on the field? We'll do our best
to give you the best
alternatives and options.
What's up, everybody? This is Steve-O. What's up, everybody? This is Steve-O. You're watching KNWT, practically the national champs of college TV. Yeah.
Welcome back to Bearcat Update. Let's take a look into Bearcat past. When someone says league of their own, it's typically meant as a generous compliment. For former Bearcat running back Xavier Omon, it's an understatement. Through his 4 years in green, he would take ownership of 32 of the Bearcats' 34 records for rushing and scoring, including nearly every season, career, and postseason mark for Bearcat running backs. He became the first NCAA running back to rush for over 1,500 yards in 4 seasons, all 4 of which are in the top 8 highest rushing yard marks in a single season in Bearcat history. With over 7,000 rushing yards and 98 total touchdowns, he would carry that into a multitude of NFL opportunities. Of course, he was an obvious selection for the M Club Hall of Fame in 2015. But for more on the legendary Paul mark left by Omon, our crew member, Jaden Varner, felt very ambitious this week. He's going to also give us the rundown on Xavier.
Xavier Omon, loved by fans, feared by defenses. In his time at Northwest, Omon did it all, rushing for a record-breaking 2,337 yards in 2007 and adding on an incredible 37 rushing touchdowns. His name is littered throughout the Northwest record books, the most rushing yards in a game, the second most carries in a game, the most rushing touchdowns in a game, and that's just barely scraping the surface of how dominant Omon truly was here at Northwest. He gave fans every reason to cheer loud, especially in one of his most memorable moments when he broke off a 98-yard touchdown run against Green Valley.
The football, but be careful here. Osborne on the 1st and 10. Omon out of the backfield. He'll get it done. Look out! There's nothing but green turf. Omon! Omon! Touchdown! 98 yards!
After his days at Northwest, Omon took on the NFL, playing for the Bills and Broncos.
Omon. Straight ahead, and he's in.
Even though his time in the NFL may be forgettable, his record-breaking days here at Northwest will always be remembered.
We're going to shift to a recently departed Bearcat that caught national attention. After a pair of years at Northwest that saw a pair of second-team All-MIAA selections, being named the 2021 MIAA Freshman of the Year. Though Bennett Stirtz spent just 2 years in Maryville, he averaged 14.9 points per game. He played alongside Wes Streamer and Diego Bernard. Stirtz became an under-the-radar star in this year's March Madness for the Drake Bulldogs. As recently announced, he'll be taking his brand of basketball to the Iowa Hawkeyes as former Northwest head coach Ben McCollum looks to build the infrastructure of a champion. But that's all the time we have for today. I'm your host, Jason Holland, and this has been Bearcat Update, the provider of complete coverage of Northwest sports. We're live every Sunday at 2, and you can find us on YouTube at KNWT TV. Along with Bearcat Update, you can watch KNWT's other content as well. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back in no time.